Pine Bluff City Council meeting for October the 20th, 2014 is hereby called to order. May we have roll call, please? We're having a sidebar over here with Miss Whitfield's hair.
Alderman Brumman.
Here.
Alderman Easterly.
Here.
Alderman Stipp.
Here.
Alderman Walker. Alderman Boyd.
Here.
Alderman Brown.
Here.
Alderman Mays.
Here.
Alderman Hope.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Each of you have a copy of the minutes from October the 6th, okay? It's been properly moved and second that the minutes as presented be voted on. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to committee reports, Ways and Means, Alderman Brumman.
Yes, Mayor. We have two budget adjustments that were in your packet. One is from the City Collector's Office, needing $2,000 for office supplies, $2,000 data processing, and from within the department, they have monies in their salary account that can cover it. Fund office supply and data processing costs through year-end funded from within the department. I move we accept this budget adjustment from the City Collector's Office.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that a budget adjustment in the amount of $4,500 for the City Collector's Office to deal with office supply and data processing cost. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, we have a request from the police department for an adjustment within their budget to pay for retirement and 72 hours of accumulated sick leave for an officer that is retiring. The total amount is $13,917.60. I move we adopt this budget adjustment.
Second, upon verification of time.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that a budget adjustment in the amount of $13,917.60 be approved. It's for accumulated sick leave of 720 hours. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I move that the bills that the city owes be paid.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that the bills for the city be paid. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes the report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ordinances and resolutions, Alderman Brumman.
Yes, Mayor. The Ordinance and Resolutions Committee met prior to the meeting. Alderman Brown, I think, wants to pull number 3 for this at this meeting. Okay. Otherwise, they will be processed as on the agenda. That concludes the report.
Thank you, sir. Economic and Community Development, Alderwoman Walker.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Public Health and Welfare, Alderman Holcomb.
Mayor, I have no report, but at this time, we have an update on the downtown project from Mrs. Missy Ruth and Mr. Jamie Ross. They will come make a presentation. If that's okay with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Alderman Holcomb asked us to come before you and give an update of our current actions towards some downtown properties that are kind of our plan and our action of, that we present to him in his committee meeting. And everybody has a copy. We'll start with the first bullet point here. We decided to begin our focus on area that we refer to as Block 64, which is the Block 64 in that Old Town Addition, which is in between the 4th and 5th Street on South Main, which is the same block that the Pines is on. We're more focused on the eastern side of the street. You know, Pines takes up most of that western side of that block. inspection department, along with the fire department, we got together and we made a outwardly assessment of those buildings along in that Block 64, looking for any telltale signs of anything that looks suspicious to us that we should be concerned about. We also, with cooperation from Simmons, was able to go up to their top floor and look out, to assess roofs and things like that. And along with the fire department's help, we assessed some properties that we feel more concerned about than others. Those properties that we then felt concerned about, we located and contacted those property owners. We've been in contact with them to bring them in, meet with us, ask them what their intent for the property is, what we can do to help them move forward in what they're wanting to do. And also, in that meeting with the property owners, our goal is to gain access to the interior. That's something that we have to get, if it's not open and not available to us, we need their permission to go inside. And so getting interior access gives us and the fire department also a chance to look in and see if there's anything concerning to our eyes there too. The properties that we have identified that might have some concern to us, we're having bi-weekly meetings with the owners of those properties, kind of the city and the property owner working together on what we can do to help them achieve their goal of whatever their goal is for those properties, and what their plans will be. That last bullet point right there is that along with in those meetings with their plans and things, our hope and goal is to educate those property owners on their responsibilities as a downtown property owner, and which locally and on the state level also is, you have our local property maintenance codes that we, hope that they follow. And then you also even go into the state section there where that's where asbestos, things like that fall into play. And so we want them to be very aware of all their responsibilities and everything that comes into play as being a commercial property owner, not only here in Pine Bluff, but it's on the state level, anywhere in the state. And then we mailed out a letter to all property owners in downtown a month or so ago that kind of overviewed their responsibility for the asbestos requirement through ADQ of what their responsibility is in any form of renovation, demolition kind of aspect. And then, last month, September 15th, the council passed the new ordinance downtown that allows, a little tougher teeth and things in the ordinance 6492. And of course, we had to wait 30 days for that to enact. So at this point, we're going to start a new letter that goes out to all downtown property owners and just kind of goes over what this ordinance is intended and what we want to hope to, accomplish through, revitalizing downtown. So that is our report. Any questions? Answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Appreciate the update.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. All right. Public Works, Alderman Mays.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the street department, which is up under Public Works, for cleaning up the streets that I had mentioned last council meeting that will have a lot of dumping in them. They did a great job. Citizens are happy in the area on the west side and the north side. They did a great job. And something else, I had a breakfast with some pastors over the weekend, and they were mentioning to me how some of their members who watch the city council meeting, they can't hear some of these mics. I spoke with Mr. Steve Stevens, our maintenance department, and I spoke with the IT from UAPB, and they say that it's our fault with the mics. The mics are too far back.
Yeah, you got 'em from
That's what I'm, if you want, just ask it. You all can do what you want to do, just ask them what they ask me, so their members and them themselves can hear us. Because we give information for them, and they want to hear the information that we give them. I don't think that's right, but you can do what you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Development and Planning, Alderman Boyd.
We met last Tuesday on the 14th, I believe it was, and item number 6 was brought to our committee, and the committee recommended we do pass on
Okay.
about the officers.
Yes, sir.
We have a couple of members that we do when we get to
Okay.
the part. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, sir. Traffic and Aviation, Alderman Brown.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I don't officially have a report. However, on the last meeting that we had, I did make mention of the fact that we had a real poor rodeo parade, and also last Christmas parade was very poor. I'm hoping that our Christmas parade will be a lot better than it's been being, or whoever has been working on that need to make more invites. And I sort of got a tease about that, and that was probably from somebody that didn't really think. But when parades come in here, they bring bands, and they hungry when they leave. They spend tax. They buy hamburgers and they buy cheeseburgers and hot dogs, and Coke, which is tax. Also, the parents got to drive up and do some shopping at the mall. So we're talking about one Monticello, Star City, Fordyce. We're gonna have to do something to entice these bands and people to come to our parades for any reason at all. We need those people in our city spending money in our cities. So, you know, when it was said to me that I'm talking about parades, I'm still on the tax base, I'm still on taxes. We have to have people spending money in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, or we're not gonna survive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Administration, Alderman Steps.
Yes, Mayor, we had the committee met and we had an appeal for a 3-day suspension, and the committee overturned the 3-day suspension, and we voted to give a 1.5-day suspension. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety, Alderman Easterly.
No report, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions, Alderman Brummett.
Mayor, we have an ordinance amending the 2014 annual budget to create a line item for housing rehabilitation, designating an amount for the line item and related purposes, up for the third and final reading.
An ordinance amending the 2014 annual budget to create a line item for housing rehabilitation, designating an amount for the line item and related purposes.
Move for adoption.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that an ordinance amending the 2014 annual budget to create a line item for housing rehabilitation, designating an amount for the line item and related purposes. Floor is now open for discussion.
I'm sorry, I wanted to second that, and I didn't. I just wanted to say.
Okay. Well, let me say this. I've had several conversations, and one of the things that Alderman Brummett did bring to my attention, and I didn't want to pull it without bringing it before the full council, is that we were talking about a line item here for the 2014 year. Inasmuch as we're getting ready to go into our 2015 budget hearings, I thought that it might be proper for it to go into that particular budget. Also, when we were talking about the rehabilitation monies on the housing, and there was another thought that if we're going to utilize the money for the rehabbing, it's possible that some of the money could have been used in new housing, because once those new houses are built, you have a perpetual. When that house sells, then you get more money put back in, and you can have a continuous money that you could use for these houses. And I would just like to pull it into at least for the next council meeting before we vote on it tonight, and if we have a chance to look at some of these options and things that I have some concerns about, and have some other concerns. Go ahead, if you got something to say. Anybody else?
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, we need to remove the second
Okay,
Okay.
in
Okay.
the motion.
okay. The second's been pulled. Okay.
And I'd like for you also to consider the possibility of us not just housing, but possibility, this downtown rehabilitation thing that may have to happen. We may need some money like that to help with it as well. So I'd like for y'all to consider possibly putting it not just housing, but also rehab of structures that are required for safety reasons. Because I'm afraid we're going to find as we look more into downtown that there's some real issues down there. That could have like a domino effect and buildings just collapse, is what I'm really afraid of. So I'd like for y'all to consider that as well.
Bill, I had a question. It's sort of related. That if the fire department is inspecting the buildings downtown, why is this legislation we have not under the fire department, since they have the authority and the know-how to inspect buildings? I'm just curious.
I don't know, but I wish I would consider looking at leaving that more open where we could approve projects that are needed as time goes along. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So one has been pulled.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, we have an ordinance establishing within the police department a quality of life division, prescribing the staffing of the divisions, transferring certain code enforcement functions of the inspection department to the quality of life division of the police department, amending the 2014 city budget, declaring an emergency and related purposes up for the third and final reading.
An ordinance establishing within the police department a quality of life division, prescribing the staffing of the division, transferring certain code enforcement functions of the inspection department to the quality of life division of the police department, amending the 2014 city budget, declaring an emergency and related purposes.
Move for adoption.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that an ordinance establishing within the police department a quality of life division, prescribing the staffing of these divisions, transferring certain code enforcement functions of the inspection department to the quality of life division of the police department, amending the 2014 city budget, declaring an emergency and related purposes. Floor is now open for discussion. Yes, sir.
Yes. I never approved of this ordinance on first place, and I still can't get anything out of it, and I think Alderman Walker just made a valuable statement that was very important, that if we're going to change some inspectors from one department to another, the fire department has the right and the training and the knowledge to declare whether a building is safe or unsafe. So why would we move the inspection department from regular inspections to the police department? I understand that they already wear badges. So what are we gonna put guns on them? And I just don't understand how any of us maybe even think about this. I just don't see how it can be any kind of consideration that this is good at all. And the next thing is, I love the phrase quality of life, because I used that in my campaign. I just feel like this is a real horrible way to use my theme of quality of life. I just don't see where this gonna make life better and a quality in Pine Bluff. Quality to me is something like a blue ribbon or a gold ribbon. I mean, I don't see anything as gold ribbon or blue ribbon about moving some inspectors from one department to a police department. And the only thing I can think of is just pass the police department's budget, which I'm not prejudiced to departments. And that's what's probably gonna happen, because when we move the dog pound to the police department, we pass the police department budget. And then I did ask the question, when it was first told to me about this ordinance, would it involve a job increase or somebody making more money? And the answer was no, and I simply don't believe that. I believe that if you put these inspectors over the police department, somebody's gonna be in charge of that particular department. And that's gonna mean a raise or a promotion for somebody, and we're not into that right now, trying to give promotion and raises. I don't see why they can't just stay where they are. They wear badges. If they go to a house and inspect a house, they should just go, inspect, write it up and come back to the hall and send a letter out, or call that person in for a hearing. I see where you don't need a police there unless, of course, you plan to take a police out to, every time they go out to look at how you take a police out there, which was use up manpower. I just don't understand it. And I don't understand my fellow aldermen or anybody else in the audience or in the city of Pine Bluff can possibly understand how this is gonna make life better in Pine Bluff. Using the term quality of life, I just don't get it. I just think it's another move. It's not a move in a direction where you want a better quality of life in Pine Bluff. I just can't see it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion?
I still am asking the same question about the authority, and I'm directing this to Alderman Brumman. He's a senior alderman, and his name is on this, that, since the fire department have the ability and the know-how to inspect buildings, and the police department doesn't. So, I don't know what would they bring to the table? What would the police department bring to the table? Because, if they go with the people to serve some papers, then, that's a civil matter. So I don't think they can just go with them to serve papers and it hasn't been to court, I wouldn't think.
You're addressing the chair, Greg, because that's
No,
what you're supposed to address the chair on issues.
Well, your name was on it.
Well, there's 5 people on it, not just me.
Okay,
I
yeah,
didn't
because
design
that
it.
was because you were the senior alderman, so I addressed the senior alderman.
I personally like the idea of the police department handling it. And we've looked at other cities that have done this.
What city?
Jonesboro.
That's where the mayor's from. That's the only city you can think of?
North Little Rock?
Like I said, address your questions and to the mayor.
Okay, just one second. Alderman Walker has the floor.
No, since Alderman Brompton are going to answer.
Okay. Okay. Alderman Easter.
To me, it's code enforcement. I mean, it's kind of a legal issue there, and that's the reason I think it probably falls under the, and, the fire department's welcome to work with them, but I think because it's code enforcement, I think it more properly falls under the police department as far as a division. But they could very well be assisted by the fire department at any time they needed their help with anything.
True. There's 2 different types of inspections that are done here. Yes, sir.
This is directed to the city attorney, if you don't mind. Ms. Scott, would this have to be if the police department was going to enforce something concerning this quality of life? Would they have to go to court? Would this have to be a court order? Or they'd go do it just because they were given an order to do it?
The police department has the authority to enforce violations of any ordinances. They have that authority. It doesn't matter what the ordinance is.
That's right.
Is that an answer to your question?
You said they have the authority.
Any violation of an ordinance, they have the authority to enforce, to write a citation as it relates to that violation. Now, generally, of course, the inspection department has done it in the past, but they have that authority as well.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you. According to, in lieu of the statement that the attorney just made, then why are we moving them? Police have the right to enforce anyway, so, I've been served some paper from the inspectors on a lot and on a house, and it didn't take the police force to get to me. I'm trying to figure out what in the world why would we need to move them to the police department in order for it to work? I mean, you talk about teeth, what teeth? But the thing that Alderman easily just said was code enforcement. I'm not quite understanding code enforcement because code enforcement takes place anyway. We have not had a problem out of our inspectors doing what they need to do. Now, sometimes inspectors go out and they're re-challenged by the people that live in Pine Bluff because of various reasons. But we haven't had any shootouts, we haven't had nobody getting jumped on, and if we did, inspector was out of line because what they're supposed to do is go and write it up and return back to their office and get it to city business. That's all they're supposed to do. They wear a badge so that they do have the right to do what they do. But if we're gonna move to the inspector department, then they need to be deputized and be police officers instead of being inspectors. They need to turn into police officers. I don't know how we're gonna vote tonight on this, but I just don't see a major change that this needs to take place. I think it needs to stay the way it is, and we move our city forward with other reasons. This is not gonna give the people that live in Pineville a quality of life. This is something done within. It has nothing to do with how you're gonna live here in Pineville, nothing. We've addressed the issues of abandoned houses, we've addressed the issues of torn up houses, or houses that need to be torn down and rebuilt or remodeled. We've addressed that issue. Where in the world we need to address it? This is a wasted time issue. Very wasted time. We should be doing other things other than breaking up departments for various other reasons. And you write it down and mark my words. A raise for somebody is going to take place. And it's not fair for one individual to get a raise when this is something that did not separate. We did not have to separate our inspection department. This is not a good idea. This separation should not take place. So we're going to end up promoting somebody for nothing. We have an inspector director already, and that inspector has his or her assistants already. So I don't know if we've had problems. And like I said, I can speak from experience because of lots of grass, old houses, or houses that need torn down. We've had no problem. They've been challenged by the owner. But there's been shootouts and jump ons and fights. People were angry, but we hadn't had any problem where we need to move inspectors from the inspection department to the police department. And y'all write it down. We'll be doing budgets in less than a month, and I guarantee those police budgets are going to be padded because of it.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, may we have roll call, please?
Alderman Brumman?
Aye.
Alderman Easterly?
Aye.
Alderman Steph?
Aye.
Alderman Walker? No. Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Brown?
No.
Alderman Mays?
Aye.
Alderman Hope?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we'll move on. Number 3 was pulled by the sponsor. Number 4 is an ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 2. Excuse me. Move for the emergency clause.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that the emergency clause regarding ordinance number 2 be passed. Do we need a roll call on that? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Brumman?
Aye.
Alderman
Did
Easterly?
we get a motion?
Uh-huh.
Did we get a question?
Discussion.
On the emergency clause, we don't?
We do get a question, though.
Move to.
Every motion reserved, every motion, a question is behind every motion.
Move to adopt the emergency clause. That's the
Yes.
motion.
Uh-huh, we did.
Okay,
I didn't hear the question.
I'm sorry, what are you asking me?
That's a term that they use in the book. I guess you haven't heard of that. In other words, it's a chance to comment on the motion.
Okay, so you're asking me, did I do what? I'm not sure what you're asking me. What did I
What
do?
he's saying is-
What did I miss here?
What he's saying is, once we passed it, the second.
Okay,
then
okay,
it's time for
okay,
discussion.
okay.
And
I
he-
didn't
he
hear
has a
that.
right for a discussion.
Okay, all right. I'm calling for any discussion from the floor. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Thank you, ma'am. So we're gonna do this, but what's the urgency? Why does it have to pass now? Why it can't go through the processes of every normal ordinance go? First of all, I don't see the need, but now why is there a need for emergency? It passed, let's move on till the time lapse and let it take place. Why is there need for an emergency? There is not a serious need for it. And I know what's gonna happen. You're just gonna say, okay, fine, any more comments, and then you're gonna vote. And I just don't understand why this council just sits here and let those things happen. I just don't understand that. I'm not venting, I'm for real about city business. I don't understand why there's a need for an emergency clause here. Why do we need to pass this within the 30 days allotted for ordinance and resolution to take place? I don't see where there's something laying out there that needs fixing today or yesterday. I just don't see it. I just think it's being shoved down people's throats, and I don't like that. I don't like nothing shoved down my throat. And that's what I think is going on. We're shoving an idea down somebody's throat. And that's not what my politics are about. I'm about doing things in an orderly fashion, the way the people of this city voted us to do so. Not for it to be chunked down our throats at once. I don't see the need for an emergency. I really don't.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Brumman.
Aye.
Alderman Easterly.
Aye.
Alderman Steph.
Aye.
Alderman Walker. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Brown. Alderman Mays. Alderman Hope.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Now we'll move on to number 4, an ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas regarding identification of city vehicles, up for the second reading.
An ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas regarding identification of city vehicles.
Place it on the calendar. Has this been to committee?
No, but it will be before the next meeting.
Okay. The next one is number 5, which is an ordinance adopting a social media and networking policy for the Pine Bluff Police Department, up for the second reading.
An ordinance adopting a social media and networking policy for the Pine Bluff Police Department.
Place it on the calendar. Has that one been to committee? Public safety?
It hadn't. I thought it was going to come up in the admin meeting, but it didn't come up the other day, so.
Okay. Which committee is going to, it needs to go to one of the committees. Are you,
What is it, man?
you meeting anytime soon?
No, not before the.
Public safety? Public
It
safety?
was policy,
Public safety committee.
handbook stuff.
Public safety.
And maybe admin too, but public safety as well as admin.
I was thinking administrating because it's in the handbook, I guess handbook.
That's not a problem.
It was what
But
I
it-
was thinking last one, we suggested it last time, but we can do it in a public safety meeting.
Which one?
Well, it has to do, I mean, both of you all can meet at the same time. I mean, I would think that since it deals with the police department protocol, then I would think the public safety would handle it.
All right, we'll ask the Public Safety Committee to review it before the next meeting. Okay, we have an ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to add a Section 16-5 mandating use of a container or dumpster to dispose of solid waste, declaring an emergency, up for the first reading.
Whereas too many individuals and commercial entities in the city are not using containers or dumpsters to dispose of solid waste instead of piling the solid waste outside of the business. And whereas this form of disposal is a threat to the public health by attracting rodents and vermin, being the source of noxious odors, causing litter to be carried to the street and adjacent properties, and being offensive visually. And whereas all solid waste should and must be disposed of in approved containers or dumpsters. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, Article 1 of Chapter 16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended to add a new Section 16-5, disposal of waste, approved container dumpster required. A, for purposes of this section, solid waste has the same meaning as it is defined in Section 16-83 of this chapter. B, for the purposes of this section, to dispose of solid waste encompasses any act of storage, abandonment, throwing away, or leaving for collection things included in the definition of solid waste. C, no person shall dispose of solid waste except by placing the solid waste in a container or dumpster which has been approved for the purpose by the City of Pine Bluff. D, any person or commercial entity in violation of this section shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and upon conviction shall be fined a sum between $200 and $500 and ordered to remedy the violation at his or her own expense, or where the city has acted to remedy the condition to reimburse the city the full cost of the remedial action. Every day that the person or commercial entity is in violation of this section shall constitute a discrete and separate offense for which the person may be prosecuted and convicted. Section 2, all ordinances or any part of an ordinance which conflicts with this ordinance are hereby repealed to the extent of the conflict. Section 3, the sections, subsection sentences of this ordinance are declared to be severable, and should any be found unlawful, the remaining shall continue to be given the effect with the unlawful part excised. Section 4, this ordinance being of a general or permanent nature, the clerk will cause its publication as required by law. Section 5, the City Council finds that the act of persons and commercial entities disposing of solid waste without using a container or dumpster constitute an immediate risk to the public health, safety, and welfare. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon its passage.
Mayor, I'd like to move we suspend the rules and place this on the second reading.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that the rules be suspended and put this on the second reading. Ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to add a Section 16-5 mandating use of a container or dumpster to dispose of solid waste, declaring an emergency. May we have roll call, please?
Alderman Brumman.
Aye.
Alderman Eastman. Alderman Steph.
When will we get to the question?
On the third reading?
Third reading.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right,
Alderman Walker. Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Brown. Alderman Mays. Alderman Hope.
Aye.
Yes, sir. Alderman
This
Holcomb.
no need to go to committee.
It's been a committee.
It's been-
Oh, hey,
We discussed it with Ruth and
okay.
planning the other day.
And,
He's the chair.
and the ordinance amend, you want me to read, go ahead and read the second time?
Is this, what was this to move it to the second reading?
Yes.
Okay, I vote no.
To move it to the second reading? To suspend the rules?
Yes.
Okay, she voted no, so we have to have
6,
6.
it's fine.
Okay.
An ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to add a subsection 16-5 mandating use of a container or dumpster to dispose of solid waste, declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I'd like to further suspend the rules and place this ordinance on the third and final reading.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that the rules be suspended and place an ordinance amending Article 1 of Chapter 16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to add a Section 16-5 mandating use of a container or dumpster to dispose of solid waste, declaring an emergency. May we have roll call, please?
Alderman Brumman.
You need to have discussion, don't you?
To suspend the rules, do we need, no,
There has to be a question.
not to suspend the rules.
Anytime you get a second, you have to,
Not to,
Yeah,
we'll have discussion on the third reading if it gets
but you
there.
still have to allow, behind
that's
every motion, you have to allow time. for
They can, yes, he's correct in that
Okay.
after your motions
All
discussion.
right? Yes, sir.
Now, excuse me, Alderman Steph, you have some reservations, you can express your reservations before we get to the third one. If you-
My questions is, who are we talking about when you said businesses? Are we talking about restaurants? Are we talking about the residential or just people that's in business? Because one of the concerns that I have is that there are people that have dumpsters, and when we require them to have dumpsters, everybody puts stuff in the dumpster but you. And and who's going to police the people from filling up your dumpster? And when you go out to use it, then you can't use it. But if we're talking about particular businesses that should have dumpsters and they don't, then I think that maybe we can earmark those people, because if certainly there probably has been somebody that has been identified that's not doing what he or she's supposed to do. And that was the question that I have concerning if we put an ordinance out there. What do we already have in place for this thing when we find this garbage and stuff sitting out on the sidewalk in front of our business? Do we have anything to address that at this point? Yeah.
What was brought to our committee mainly is dealing with the service station, restaurants, they have raw garbage, there's food laying out in the back, and no
Okay.
dumpster on the premises to put it in.
Okay.
They just stacks it up in the back and stays there. I mean, I have observed it myself.
Oh, yeah,
Different places.
I'm sure of that, but
So
I guess
don't think this is meant for home or, another, average business. These businesses have raw garbage.
We've,
So we're not talking about, no, any kind of business or office structure or nothing like that, okay.
It can pertain to a commercial business, and what we've come across in our Safe Team sweeps is some convenience stores that do not have a container, that desperately need a container, or some apartments that should have a
Okay.
container that don't have containers. So I think that it really is needed. Alderman Holcomb?
Hey, it'd probably be best if you let Ms. Ruth explain it.
I agree with you. Ms. Ruth, would you like to?
Mayor,
Yes,
before we go any further, I guess the motion and the second would be to discuss whether we want to suspend the rule or not this discussion. So we should finish this and then put on
Well, that's what I was thinking when we were going into it, but I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay, that's all right.
Excuse me, Mayor, thank you. But if we think it's that important that you go from the first reading, which is the first reading, to the third reading, then most of the time, we're figuring if we're gonna pass it by the time we get to pass all that. So frankly, I think why are we doing everything in emergency? Why don't we just quit doing first and second and third readings? Just do first readings and we're done. At county, they do first readings and it's over. So if we keep doing emergencies, then we don't need to do 1, 2, and 3 readings. Let this go through process. What we're finna do here is some serious stuff. We got businesses to go shoot us down behind this, I promise you. We're gonna get shot down behind this because this is gonna make a lot of businesses do things that they would not. I think dumpsters cost money. We're gonna make them pay out extra money, and we'll just think we're sitting behind this desk, sitting behind these mics, and saying things, but we may be doing a lot more harm to our businesses than we think we're doing. So I think this thing needs to go through process and not just rush it, because if we go from first reading to second reading to third reading, and then by the time we get there, everybody thinks it's gonna be a good bet, and then nobody's against it because we discussed something that was totally against it. I frankly think, and the mayor tried to answer it, even though I feel she agreed with it, but this may include a lot of people that you are not saying in this ordinance that it's gonna include. So we may be not opening a can of worms, but we may be pushing some worms on somebody that they don't want. So these are the things we need to think about. I mean, you talk about 1 or 2 businesses that don't do right, but a lot of businesses do right, and some businesses don't have things in their disposable that's gonna be stinking or in a fly infested area or vermin area waiting. It doesn't end up being there. But with this passage of this ordinance may make them have to get this dumpster, which I think this may be a little vague in what we're doing. I think we need to think about this a little bit more. But let me say this, I'm for the best for Pine Bluff, but I'm also for the best for the people that live here. We can't continue to impose various penalties and various expenses on our businesses, because every time one go out, they don't come back, and they will say reasons why that they went out, and it may not be fully the reason, but they'll lie, or they'll just make that a part of the reason why they went out. So I think we need to think about this a little bit more and let it go through the processes tonight, and let's see where we come from. Let some businesses tell me, because here's the real deal, and I'm going to tell the real truth. Several people have told me about this, and I didn't really realize what this was about. When they was telling me until I read it again, I said, yeah, right. They said they're going to make everybody get done. And I didn't really realize that until they brought it to my attention, and I was like, and read it again. So I think we need to really reevaluate this on a business sense, because there are some people that have businesses that don't have things that bring flies or that vermin will hang around, and we're going to put this out there, and it's a good chance that you'll make every business that's a business get one of these jobs.
Okay, we're going to make it, if we've got any more comments, it needs to be about moving it on. And then we'll have the comment section and question section at the third reading. So can we have roll call now?
And if you don't mind, Mayor, before it goes any further, then I agree with Alderman Brown, because, if we have businesses that do not have dumpsters, that it's obvious that if the inspectors can see that they need them, well, then that business should be told that they have to get a dumpster. But if you just put a blanket umbrella out there, and especially passing it all tonight. Businesses is open under one law, and they wake up and open up their business, and they are under different law. And I don't think that's fair, because, you know, we need to be as business-friendly as we can, because we don't need another boarded-up building where a business has closed. So, you know, I think this is a little bit heavy-handed.
I think it's obvious that every business don't need dumpsters, but it's obvious some business need dumpsters.
But this will say.
Now, if people got a business that don't have no discard out in their back, I don't think it's an issue.
Well, what we're doing here right now is we're having a discussion on the second reading, and we don't need to have that. So let's move on and have roll call and move it on to the third reading, since we've already passed it on the first. Roll call, please.
Alderman Brumman?
Aye.
Alderman Easterly?
Aye.
Alderman Steph?
No.
Alderman Walker?
No.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Brown?
No.
Alderman Mays? Alderman Hope?
Aye.
No, didn't work. Okay,
We'll place it on the calendar for the next meeting for the
Okay.
third and final reading.
okay.
We have a resolution approving a continued funding agreement as revised June 2014 with the Pine Bluff Civic Auditorium Complex Commission.
Whereas on June 23, 2013, the city entered into that certain lease purchase agreement with First Assured Security Leasing Incorporated, pursuant to which the city financed the acquisition, construction, and installation of certain energy conservation measures in the Pine Bluff Convention Center. And whereas the Civic Auditorium Complex Commission oversees and manages the operation of the Convention Center, and in conjunction with the execution of the lease agreed to make lease payments in accordance with the terms and conditions of the lease with funds in the Auditorium Fund, provided from the operation of the Convention Center, and whereas the city is willing to currently refund the lease as part of a larger city revenue bond issue, provided that the Convention Center continues to make from its available Convention Center revenues payments equal to the lease payments for the remaining term of the lease as if the lease continued in effect, which lease payment schedule is identified as Exhibit B to the lease and will be as Exhibit A and incorporated by the agreement. And whereas the city is willing to renegotiate the lease payment terms to allow for additional and extended time for the Convention Center to pay sums due pursuant to this agreement in conformity with the debt service schedule. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that the mayor is authorized to sign the attached continuing funding agreement with the Pine Bluff Civic Auditorium Complex Commission and take the needed actions to implement the agreement.
Move for adoption.
It's been properly moved and second that a resolution approving a continued funding agreement as revised June 2014 with the Pine Bluff Civic Auditorium Complex Commission. Floor is now open for discussion. Yes, ma'am.
I guess this would be, well, whoever has the answer, that the principal in 2012 was $95,000. In 13, it jumped to $100,000. In 14, to $105,000. And then it ended up down to $125,000, and then started coming down to 60, 65. And I don't understand how these numbers got to where they are. And we started out with, I assume this is one debt. That was $40,000. And it ended up with the principal amount of over $1 million.
Okay. Would you like, Mr. Purvis, would you like to? No. Okay.
Yeah, if I may, on the original debt was, I think we borrowed, the original debt was, I believe, 1.6 million. I'm going back here a few years on that first bond issue, but I believe it was 1.6 million. And then in 2003, is that correct, when the city redid its overall bond issue, and so we redid this one at the same time, we added another, I think, 200 or 300,000 to it. So the overall amount of principal that's currently owed is $1.7 million.
But
Yep.
here we have starting from 2010.
That's how much principal we paid in 2010. And then you see over the right, the interest, and you'll notice what happens. It's like any note. You're paying less principal in the early years and you're paying more interest in the early years. And then gradually, as you pay off that interest, you start paying more principal and less interest. So as it goes down, you'll see that the amount of interest each year decreases, the amount of principal goes up. The overall payment stays about the same. There's some adjustments for some calendar stuff. But the overall amount of payment stays about the same, but like your house payment, your first few years, you're mostly paying just interest, and then the later years, you're paying more principal.
And it takes you longer to pay it. But I'm still trying to see how we arrived at the numbers that we did when we started out with 40,000 as principal.
Well, we pay, actually what we pay, and that 2010 was actually a portion of a year that's showing there. That's half a year. What we're currently paying is, and have every year since the bond issue began, is approximately 160,000. I think Steve, some years it may be 157 or 159 because there's some little variations in interest and payments, but it's approximately $160,000 and has been every year. That year you'll see there was a 37, 8, and a 40, so it was about 80,000. That was half of the year that's showing there.
Okay, so you're saying 2010 was a half a year?
Yeah, that's half a year, that's all your total. See, if you look there on 2011, you see 95 and 63, which is about 158,
And then it jumps
159,000.
on down to 125,000.
Uh-huh.
But you said that this started in 2003, right?
Is that, I think I'm using the correct date, is that the correct date that this bond issue began? Yes.
So in 2003, it was over $1 million.
Yes, ma'am. The total was $1,650,000, I think, somewhere in that range. It's bond attorneys go in and restructure stuff is what they've done.
May I speak?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
My question is this. The money was borrowed from the budget for what?
I'm sorry, I
The
don't know.
money was for what?
The money was spent on the heating and air conditioning system in the building, replacing the big carpet in the banquet hall, help me a little bit, Alderman Brummett, part of the roof work that was done.
The curtains in the auditorium.
The big curtains in the auditorium. So those are the things, they were all capital improvement items and repairs that were done on the building. They were finished in 2007, 8? When were those? We had a deadline to make the final expenditures.
2009 and had 3 years, and so I think.
That's 12, so that's when we kicked over this 2010.
So that was 2003. All this took place.
It began in 2003.
Okay, my question, Mr. Miller, is, hold on for a second. Mr. Miller, why is the CenterPoint franchise fees backing this up in case something happens? This is a lot of taxpayers' money that's being spent here. How much per month we get on CenterPoint franchise fees? The citizens' utility bills here in the Pine Bluff.
Well, it's heavy in the winter. It's about 350,000 a year. So if you just averaged it, it'd be about 30,000 a month. Under Amendment 65 of the Arkansas Constitution, cities are allowed to issue bond issues secured by franchise fees as the revenue. It's a revenue bond issue, and the revenue secures the debt.
So how much do we get a year or a month on the energy franchise fees?
It's about 1.8 million a year, so maybe 150,000 a month average.
That's over 2 million.
Right.
Just on those two bills alone.
Right.
Utility fees.
That's correct, and that revenue still comes into the city. It's available to operate to the extent that it's not, paying the debt service that we've taken on that's become part of the general fund budget.
So this franchise fee backs up the bond issue.
That's my understanding. That's the law, that something has to back it. But it's like if you build a house, the house backs up your house payment, they can take your house if you don't make the payment. So
This is taxpayers' money here though, so it's the refunding franchise fees, revenue bonds. That's what it was.
Right.
We got over the change like that recently.
The actual bond issue, before we had the bond issue, in 2001, the city took out leases to do the heating and air work here at City Hall. In 2003, the Convention Center did the same type of arrangement, a 15-year lease for their heating and air work. Then in 2009, we refinanced both of those leases with a revenue bond issue. And we got money for fire trucks, for, the New World system, for doing that sewer extension, and doing repairs at the Convention Center. Subsequently, in 2014, we refinanced the 2009 issue to get additional money for Joe Thomas and to save money on interest. As part of that, when we did that, Bob asked, if we could, levelize the payments for the Convention Center. And so that's been done. What you're looking at here is just an internal, note, but where the Convention Center is paying the city its share. The city, each month pays the bondholders the interest on the total debt on what's now the 2014 bond issue that was used to refinance Joe Thomas. And what you see here is that there's an interest savings that was achieved in the 2014 bond issue of going from about 4.2% to about 3.1%. And that's saving the Convention Center approximately $40,000 over the course of this total, debt. But also the Convention Center is getting to levelize their payment. They're really getting longer to pay. And in these near-term years, I guess for the next 5 or 6 years, their payment's going to be about $50,000 a year less, which is going to help with their cash flow and maybe allow them to do some repairs over at the. Bob could speak better to that. But this is an internal note. This is what the Convention Center pays the city for its share of the bond issue.
the bond issue itself has been in place under all these terms since 2009 and will continue forward. The obligations never, all this is going to do, it's going to shift how much we have to write a check for each year from a little, it's going to do it like this and make it level, and it's going to help our cash flow.
So that's out of your budget. So the franchise fees is totally different. It's a backup.
Right.
The reason I say this about those franchise fees, I had talked to Mr. Don Zimmerman, the chief executive officer of the municipal league, and he has identified, they have checked into every sales tax, everything within our boundaries, and they have come up with this as our franchise fees is the one that we're missing because of those boundaries over there between separating 7160 two zip codes between Whitehall and Pine Bluff.
Can, you don't mind, can we finish this so that you don't mind?
Alderman Mays, are you through? Okay.
You know, well, actually, the percentage of the interest is going up from, it was 3.5 and now it's 4.5.
No, it's going down from 4.2 to 3.9.
Right. The cruise schedule is the 2009 schedule, and then the Stevens schedule is the new 2014 schedule.
The 14.
Yes, Alderman Walker.
Okay, now, where is this payment going into?
Into Simmons Trust. They're the trustee for the bond issue, and we make the payment to Simmons, and then Simmons makes the payment to the bondholders on the schedule.
We make the payment to the city. So,
Oh,
yeah, we make a check made out to the city of Pine Bluff, and that goes into that overall fund that pays the big bond. We're just a portion of the overall city
So
bond.
he pays the city?
Yeah,
Right, we
this
just pay
guy,
our share of it.
Right. And then the city pays Simmons Trust. I didn't understand your question.
So the money for the franchise fee, that money is calculated off the utility bills. I think the energy is 0.0425%. That money is put in, is a lump sum put into the trust.
No.
No utility money goes into it at all.
But it's backing up the fund.
It's collateral for the city. It's just collateral. Guarantees is all it does. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. It would be directed to you. I'm sorry, I said, I'm going to direct it to you, not the chair. Because I said something a second ago about the parades and things that are coming down.
I was gonna tell you, I had an idea about that too.
Yeah, it's a tax money. So maybe what I'm gonna ask is, are there any leftovers when you pay your bond issue to the city?
You mean in our cash flow? Well, and this would help us, but I'm digressing a little bit, but I'd like to address this question because it is a good idea and it relates, if I may, Madam Chair, just this won't take a second. I have done this before. We have offered, we have a program called inducement. We'll induce you to do something that's good for Pine Bluff. We've offered in the past, and I see no reason why we couldn't in the future, with some conditions, obviously, to help pay for the fuel costs for buses to come to be in our parades. I've done that before, and what I've discovered is, if that's the real reason, then they'll come. Sometimes they just didn't want to come, and they wouldn't even be off that way.
You're on track.
Yeah, when you said that, I thought, good idea. And it has worked, and I've done it in another city, and it worked.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question. Is this considered in the package, I'm on attachment A and B, is this what this is here?
No, that's the actual agreement that's attached, I think.
Are you asking me or
No, I
Mr.
was
Purvis?
just asking,
In general?
I was just asking a question here. It says here, that there's an exhibit A and exhibit B, and I was trying to see which one.
I believe it's the two sides of this sheet.
Okay, I didn't know what it
Is that,
Am I correct, Steve?
is that what this is? Exhibit A and exhibit B?
And this was all prepared for by bonding attorneys that handle all of this.
Okay, on this back page, it says the commission agrees to continue to make regular payments to the city as further directed by the city to the city treasurer or other appropriate office.
Yes, we all, as I understand it, we make a check out and it's made payable to the city of Pine Bluff. And I believe we send it, address it, I guess all checks are addressed to the city treasurer.
Well, who makes out the check?
We do. I sign it.
But you're not sure where you send it to?
I'm pretty sure that we address it. I know the check is made out to the city of Pine Bluff. Whether it goes to the office of collector or the office of treasurer, but I'm pretty sure it goes to the treasurer's office. I think that's the checks go, or addressed to, I believe.
I don't think you should be paying a debt to the treasurer, do you?
No, the check's made out to the city.
It's no reflection on the treasurer, but the treasurer is the one that keeps up with what is being paid. So it's kind of like there's no checks and balance there, but like I said, there's no reflection on the treasurer.
She's
But
back.
that just doesn't seem right.
Sharon, did we send that check to you or to the treasurer's office? I think it was in the treasurer's office. The bond issue.
Doesn't come to you?
I get the check.
Or Steve gets the check.
And we do deposit, we prepare the check to take to the collector, and the collector actually deposits it in the bank.
Okay, so it goes to the city finance office. It's made out to the city of Pine Bluff and it goes to the city finance office.
Sharon is saying that she don't.
No, wait a minute.
Clerks that are in the office that handles that.
She didn't personally do it, what she's saying.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Purvis at this time? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, hold on. I just got one other question. Not with you.
Go ahead.
Now, Sharon, if you the person overall in charge, you might have some clerks that might be handling that. But I just think that if you got some clerks handling it, that you ought to be familiar with what those clerks are handling and how it's being done. And I'm just saying. I would think that if that question is asked, even though that you might not be the person directly handling it, but you are the person responsible for it, and then anything, those clerks and things that coming into them, then I would think that you ought to know if you don't know.
Are you asking do you want Ms. Johnson to come forward, or are you just making a
I was
statement?
making a comment because
Okay.
she made the statement, and I just thought that, that when the question was asked, and she made a statement that the clerks handle that.
Okay, well,
And all I'm saying is that I think that even if some clerks are handling it, I think that she needs to know.
okay.
Everything that goes, okay, it's better in the system automatically.
Do we need to address that now? Do you want that addressed
No,
now?
not really.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
saying
Well,
that,
It's not relevant.
okay.
it's relevant if that's what they're gonna ask her a question, I think it's relevant.
Okay, any other questions or statements or comments from the floor? Hearing none, let's have roll call, please.
Alderman Brummy?
Aye.
Alderman Easterly?
Aye.
Alderman Steph?
Aye.
Alderman Walker?
No.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Brown? Alderman May? Alderman Hope?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
We have a resolution declaring certain houses, buildings, and our structures as nuisance and ordering their abatement.
Whereas the City Council,
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that a resolution declaring certain houses, buildings, and/or structures as nuisance and ordering their abatement. Floor is now open for discussion.
Mayor, I have an amendment on this, please.
You sure do.
You want to have a copy of the warrants?
Yes. Okay.
Property is in litigation and the other one, the property is.
Okay. Do we have a motion to remove the properties? Oh, you made you have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that the two properties presented be removed from the list. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor for the removal of the properties from the list, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now,
Move for the original as amended.
okay, it's been properly moved and second that the original resolution declaring certain houses, buildings, and/or structures as nuisance and ordering their abatement as amended be voted on. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, we have a resolution amending resolution number 2972 to remove property at 1400 Birch.
if it's okay, I'm gonna try to read all four of them at the same time.
Would you like us to try to read all four simultaneously and then just?
Oh, you're gonna do it?
I'm gonna try to read them all at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Where it is desired to amend resolutions number 2972, 3578, 3593, and 3728 to remove property which are declared public nuisances as because the owner has made significant progress in improving the premises. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that resolutions numbers 2978, 3578, 3593, and 3728 be amended with regard to the addresses of 1400 Birch, 220 West 12th, 1812 East Circle Drive, and 2301 North Spears, respectively. The inspection department shall ensure that these resolutions are filed with the Jefferson County Circuit Clerk and mailed to the current owner.
Move for adoption of resolutions 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that a resolution amending resolution number 2972, 3578, 3593, 3728 to remove property 1400 Birch, 220 West 12th, 1812 East Circle Drive, 2301 North Spears. Floor is now open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, that concludes our agenda for tonight.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
Moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.